Yo, what's good, Foot Clan? I'm here with Will.
How's it going?
Where we're talking about one of the sets and I guess one of the decks and Secret Slayers, and we're talking about Eldritch, and we're talking about what makes it. I say it's the best control deck. I don't know how he feels about it. He's playing the deck. We've both been testing it online. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's one of the most consistent control decks. I mean, Striker was very consistent with Engage, but I feel like Eldilch is also on that same par, but just with trap cards. And there's a lot of different things you can do, and it can almost become an engine, kind of like how Sky Striker was right before Konami ended up killing them.
Right. Yeah. That is a good point because even when Striker first came out, they did this thing, when we had that, the infamous Striker format where you were just putting three engages and three coordinate drones in anything. It was working. I think we're at that same point where you can kind of, people are trying that, but it's not. I think they're realizing it's not as good as just playing pure.
Right.
I mean, you'll see a lot of variants floating around online. I think Robbie did a video of Eldritch in anything, and it really has seemed like a lot of players have been trying that, where they take like these old control decks and work with it. They're not doing that with Strikers, weirdly enough. I haven't seen anything where Striker Eldritch has been a deck.
It just loses consistency when you start throwing those spell cards in there, and
yeah, you start losing consistency, in my opinion, when you start throwing anything other than hand traps, because you get anything other than hand traps and like really good tech cards. You got Border, you got Super Poly, you have other stuff like Floodgates. I mean, unlike in the OCG, we don't have three what is it, skill drain
Max,
like they.
Yeah, and Maxis too.
Yeah, and max seats. Even though I was looking into it. Some decks don't even play Maxis when they play Eldritch.
I feel like this deck is one of those decks that really doesn't need to play it.
It doesn't, yeah. It's not like Striker doesn't need to see its cards. But it does like to see its Golden Land, and let's dive into that here. Alright, cool. So, how the deck works, in my opinion, is very controlled, it's very grindy. And what makes the deck good and consistent is, I said it's the best control deck. If you look at in the past format, you had Altergeist. I always talk about Pac because he was the only guy to win with really do something, which was the PPG with Altergeist.
Right.
And he won with Altergeist, but what he was saying, which was a great point, we were talking on stream, him and Justin saying that we were talking about how the deck is really good at controlling. Altergeist is obviously. Altergeist is the better control deck. But what makes Eldritch really good is they have traps that floats. And I think a lot of players like floating. I think that's the next power creep next, because like if you look at hand traps, like you had hand traps, but now you have stuff like even if they hit the grave, they still float.
Right.
I think that's what made Orcus really good with Babel and IP and stuff like that. And the Thunder Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
I think Striker kind of had a problem at points keeping up with that, but where they would do good is their traps didn't float, they could just constantly recycle.
Right.
And I think that's where like we first saw this attempt with floating in a control deck, which was BA.
Right.
But we saw it with traps and spells with Draco.
Mm-hmm.
But Draco's problem was if they couldn't recycle, they couldn't really do anything good.
Right.
And that was kind of the problem they have. And I said this to someone that Eldritch is like Draco, but hints down it's like fair because you only have one monster. Yes, the monster is unaffected, and what is it? It's untargetable or unaffected.
Yeah, it can't be destroyed by card effects, and
it gets
think you can't target it.
It gets that. I have the deck here somewhere. It has that.
I have the deck.
It has that like 1,000 attack.
Right, but again, that's only till the end of the next turn. Unlike where Draco, they had Masterpiece, which was tremendously better than Golden Lord was by far. Like, because once this card's on the field, once it gets that effect, it basically does nothing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it gets like the summon to summon they've kind of gone back on doing that masterpiece thing. That's a video I should do is like how masterpiece changed the game.
Right.
And obviously I was a fan of Draco. I always have been. I thought the archetype was really cool. But how this works, everything kind of now works on summon. And they tried to not do that with masterpiece. Where with Eldritch they do it. I send this and another card. That's cost to the grave, and I get to pop a card. Not pop, send. That's actually important. I get to send a card, and then I can summon it back. Like that's a lot. That's a lot of resources to burn through. But because your traps float, that's not bad.
Exactly.
And that really does a lot with Eldritch. I always say they're kind of weird because when you feel like you're losing with the deck, at first it feels like you're losing. Like I feel like if you can get Eldritch into their turn 3, the deck is winning. If you can beat them by that point, if you can OTK them and do that, Eldritch has a problem really doing anything it needs to do.
Right.
And yeah, like you look at the PPG this past weekend, it was really good. I mean, what they had top 8. It was 4, and 3 were pure and 1 was an invoked.
Right,
which I thought was really interesting. And that leads us to like all these other variants. We're gonna look at the OCG variants first, and then we're gonna go down. Like this one, the great thing about it is people are like, oh, they have a counter trap. Well, that counter trap is good and bad because it's not good and bad. It's fair because unlike the rest of the deck,
it doesn't recycle.
It doesn't flow. It doesn't give you anything. I think the one that may not see play is it the one that banishes? No,
Aquero.
Whatever one that drops its attack to 0.
Oh, the lion thing.
Yeah, the lion tiger. I don't think that's going to see a lot of play. I actually think, like, here, you're looking at it, like, obviously we have vanities, you have 3 skill drain.
Right.
This is, like, the standard in the OCG. And, like...
Right, and this is more similar to what Draco was here, with all the floodgates and stuff.
Right. And I think Draco and the OCG is a lot different, because if you look at them, they can't play... I feel like a control deck, and this is where Draco loses a lot of power, is it can't fit hand traps because of a card such as Card of Demise. That limits it that well. I mean, you have other techs here. Like, you got this guy, he's playing 2/2. Mine's another one. Foolish dumps to grave. You have the, I don't know, what is this? The Curry Bandit, which I think recycles back your banish.
Yeah, you get to add one normal spell or trap when it's on the turn it's normal summoned. Which is great about this deck because it doesn't need its normal summon, so it gives you lots of options to put in the main deck. So, for example, the Invoke, they just normal summon Alistair.
Right.
For other decks, I've seen them. There's a Musketeer version where they're normal summon a Musketeer in searching Dancing Needles by the end of the turn, so you had 3 banishes for the mirror or whatever you were playing against. So there's lots of options you could play for normal summons in the deck, which I really like about the deck.
Yeah, you can play the Zoo Engine.
Yeah, you could play Zoo Engine.
You could play frogs.
I saw a frog build in the OCG too, which I'm sure you might probably have a picture of. But I was also thinking about, like, I was testing maining sphere modes because if I'm gonna lose dice roll, because I know that's the most skillful part of this game, might as well have something in there to break the board that I can't do otherwise.
And when I was originally reading Eldritch, not Eldritch, but the Golden Lord more in particular, I was like, well, if I have to go first, I kind of don't like this.
Right.
So, in theory, would the idea be to play more a going second route? But I don't think that matters now, which is weird because our format is very combo based in comparison. In comparison to the OC, like we are like when we had the Eternal format, our formats were the same, and I think a lot of players like that, and I think they do like that. I think we would like to be on par with the OCG, but I don't think we're ever gonna get that.
No, I don't think so either.
And like But that's weird because you get into that conversations of worlds now.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like who's better, but it's not really who's better. It's just like they have, in my opinion, they have the better decks and the better format.
Yeah.
As I said earlier in my video I posted, I said like our best deck is what they're like seventh. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy,
Hmm.
and it just pops up a lot of variants
Right.
to that.
And what's
Like,
crazy is people are talking about Orcust and being so broken with when Mech Knight Gearsu comes out, but it's not even doing anything over there.
yeah, it's not. Well, yeah, or I think Orcus here won't do well like it is there because they don't have. Well, I shouldn't say they. We don't have.
Oh, right. They
Harp.
still have Harp.
Yeah, we don't have Harp. Like I think that's a hype. That's really hype. Like this deck's hype, but its hype is deserved, and I understand it. But with Orcus, I don't understand it because Orcus literally lives and dies now by Scrap Recycler, and
Yep.
that's crazy. Like we
Yep.
both played that deck, and we were. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of people about it. It's just like that's what Orcus lives and dies by. Is the Scrap Recycler. Oh, so you have to open Scrap. You have to not open the Golem, and you have to hope your opponent doesn't
Doesn't
open
have Nibiru,
a Nibiru,
any
Ash.
1,000-hit DD Crow, anything.
Yeah, and like no interruptions. And I said this, it's a glass cannon. That's why I think Emancipator is gonna pick up more support because it can play through stuff. I think the same with Dragonlink, Dinos, Invoke
Right.
Shaddolls. All those decks open something, and like that's the problem with Orcus. It's an aggressive deck, which is weird. It's an aggressive deck, but it can't. It has to go first, and it can't go second like it used to.
Right.
Like, I think if you're playing a going second deck, that deck is a glass cannon as well.
Because it can't play through negates unless you open, say, like a Dark Ruler or something of that nature.
Yeah. Like, there's just so many variants you could play of this deck, like, in Eldritch. Like, obviously, I'm doing all these OCG variants first, but this guy, he's playing 8 hand traps? 7? No. 10
7.
hand traps.
Oh, 10. There's
Yeah.
imperms too,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's imperms. So, and I think this is 44 cards. And then
Yeah.
his tech, which is interesting, is Zombie World with Doom King.
Yeah. Doom King's an oppressive card when it gets on the board.
Yeah, with a field spell
Yeah.
and a Zombie World. It's weird because we were talking about how chains resolve and stuff like that. And we were talking about how if you have a zombie engrave and a Nibiru in hand, if you have White Destiny on it, I think this is a good point. I think you play 2/2. In my testing, that's what I found. I don't know what you have found, but I was testing and I activated Nibiru, and he said, okay, that's fine. So then I chained Destiny. But how the chain resolves is obviously I get to summon my zombie.
Right.
And Nibiru has to resolve, right? So everything goes, but the zombie, I cannot summon the Nibiru or the Nibiru token, which is really interesting, I found.
Yeah, it's similar to how Nightmare worked with Nibiru. You know, if you Nibiru and then they're like, that's fine, you chain Nightmare, everything will be wiped because it has to resolve as much as possible, and then it's basically a wiped board.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's also, there's gammas, there's orders. I don't like order in the main, I like it in the side.
There's not a lot of spell dominant decks. I know Shaddol Invoked is running around over here, but that's like gonna fall out, I'm assuming, soon.
I'm assuming when dinos get this, like, their
busted card.
Yeah, their busted card, because I don't know why you needed another card to pop and surge.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I think that's another. That's the reason to why I see the OCG is doing it. They're not having a dino problem because I think their dino cards are hit. And
yes.
I also
I believe Overactor's at 1.
Okay, so their dino.
Yeah,
something like that. Their dino cards are hit, and you have max C.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're starting to get into some real similarities. Yeah, but this is the 60 card build where you play this is interesting. You play a bunch of traps.
Right.
And
reasoning at 3, that's a big difference.
Yeah, with snow and grass. That's
Oh, that looks fun.
Yeah, looks fun. Looks like something. Yeah, that's a lot. Wow, he even plays the Shaddol engine.
he snuck that in there too. Oh yeah, on the side. Look at that.
I feel like the train engine's really good, but I feel like people are playing not like I like the 2 conquistadors. I like the 2 max. I don't like the 2 rail cannon. I feel like that can switch for another one.
Right.
Because it's
Well,
like
yeah.
this guy clearly likes graveyard decks or 60 card decks. He has an Infernoid, man.
Yeah.
Super Ball is another tech you can play. Like this guy only plays the driver and 60 cards. That's I mean the gamma package and 60 cards. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and the reasonings are huge because I was thinking about this. We only have it at 1, which is very unfortunate. But like, you can literally get rid of all your trap cards to the graveyard, and they will cycle at the end of the turn.
Right, you could banish them at the end of the turn.
And then you're guaranteed, like, if you're only playing Eldilch Lords or like a couple hand traps, the Eldilch Lord will summon itself off rip. Because so I thought that was an interesting thing.
Or
to
like
see.
this with the Toad engine.
Yeah.
Such an it just seems like a break. I just feel like you have to resolve.
Yeah, double frog.
Yeah.
Then again, a lot of their builds aren't playing Extravagance or any of the other draw engines we're seeing over here. Like I know there's Spellbook engines, there's Extravagance, of course, there's Magician Souls, combinations of all of them, but they don't seem to be running things like that.
The combo variant is really interesting.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I feel like this last man list didn't do its justice because Reasoning is one of those cards that came back in the OCG, I think, recently, but they said it was
the list before last.
Yeah, it was the list, but it was to support Infernoids that really did it.
No.
And then, but like over here, this deck, like, and then 3 chicken game. We gotta acknowledge that. The 3 chicken game, the 3
Everyone's
reason.
favorite card.
Yeah. Great, let's see. So, all right, I guess now we're at the TCG players. So, over here, the difference is that it's coming into is you're seeing Call By and Border and other cards. This is a weird list.
Yeah. It's what people have been using as their skeleton, essentially, though. They've been modifying it little by little.
Yeah. This was like the first list. I'm not a fan of this.
I'm not either. I just feel like all the lists in TCG have some sort of parts of their deck that are mainly geared towards stopping full combo, because in the OCG they have other cards to do so with less resources, while we have to dedicate more resources to doing so, like Border and Called By and stuff.
But in the mirror, I feel like how would that work, right? You activate Border. You're both kind of stuck under it.
Yeah.
So then it just becomes, well, who borders who first? But that's like in Thunder, who summons Colossus first.
Right.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, here's the Invoke build, which... Wow, he only has 12 cards in the extra. That's interesting. And then on an 11 card side. So
why would they do that?
They must have not done this. They must have not finished it or had it all.
I guess. I mean, still did get top 8 with it, though.
I know Pac has an Evil Eye build, and I know he has a Invoked build. I think.
Yeah, I saw both. The Evil Eye build looks very interesting to me.
Yeah, that was something I was.
It also seems like it breaks a little bit more though, because you're playing more.
Yeah, because in the Invoke variant, it seems the same way because you have to open 2 certain cards.
Right.
I think you have to open an Alistair and a Golden Lord for it to really pop off.
Yeah, and it feels like you never open Alistair at this point.
Yeah, or Lord. I think it's more Lord that you would have a problem because you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 7.
Right.
7 ways to get. You could draw into it.
Right. There's lots of ways to draw, but I mean, even then, they're only playing one of the Black Awakening, so they have to draw into that too.
The Mayakashi build is very interesting. I don't know how I feel about it.
This is my first time seeing this build, actually. It looks very unique.
It's the most unique, but I guess out of 35 players, if you top 8 with it, that speaks on skill.
Right.
Because we know, like, people shit on pro play, but pro play is a regional. We have to admit that.
Yes.
But they're very glorified, but they're glorified because the player's skill base makes it a better thing to look at.
Right.
Because, like, if you think about it yesterday, nobody who was probably in top 8 never has either. Like, I think Cody Cody, I know he's either won or he's been to at least the finals of a few YCSs. And I think this guy, he's been to. I think he did the 200,
Yeah.
but I can't remember. But I remember him explaining the Sky Striker stuff. And then you have David. She's another one. I remember her doing going second strikers.
Yep.
So yeah, there's like a lot to look at. Oh yeah, that's it. Wow, she's playing. Yeah, and that's like the skeleton and bone.
What is the shark card? I keep seeing that.
Yeah, I was wondering what that does.
Interesting. This build's very heavily dedicated to the trains.
Mm-hmm. It's also very heavily built on, I think beating both Combo and Lemire.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Not a bad idea. Yeah, it's looking like not this one, but a few of these. It's looking like two is like 2 awakening, 2-3 awakening.
Yeah, and then one of the
white.
One white. Yeah.
It's kind of a break, but it's not bad. I like 2 of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an extra recycle. Like, I like seeing more of my spells so I can get into the graveyard faster to set the cards that actually interrupt during your opponent's turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her deck is definitely. It looks like it's built to beat. That's crazy. How? That's interesting. Like, I'm looking at her side.
Yeah, it seems so standard, but like looking at it a few times, it's kind of like it's.
Because you have 3 lane. Like, it's just all these blowout cards going second.
Yeah. Well, that's really what the game is. Like, if you open your blowout cards like Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm, evenly matched, you're gonna have a bad day.
Yeah, you just scoop. Players don't know when to do that. They just don't know when to scoop.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to believe if this actually becomes a big thing and people start blowing up back row and having these Lightning Storms and Cyclones in their main deck, then we need to start playing, or Eldilch players will start playing Waking the Dragon more often, which opens up a whole nother dimension to this deck.
Yeah, because Dino's going second probably would have been the best way to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's All right, guys. Just here, give you your daily Eldritch content. Hope you all have a great day. Enjoy it, and we'll see y'all next time.